far as perspectives are concerned, we began this series talking about soil as part of human sciences. And this soil is the habitat and the world in which we live, is what is really giving us our livelihood and our being. We talked about a perspective that most of us in Africa have not been considering, which is the fact that the soil is also medicine. We've reached an age of diseases we cannot cure. And within the environment, we have already seen that there are even new diseases that are coming up. Computer addiction is a new disease. Cancers are new diseases. And we do not have medicine for cancers. What actually comes out of it is that when studies were done, they put a cancer cell in soil. They found that the microbial activity within the soil and what it had done to very virgin soil was able to heal a cancer cell.
You've talked about DNA, you've talked about light, you've talked about plants, you've talked about vibrations. I want you to tell me something about soil. If everything has been genetically modified and the soil is intact, tell me something about soil. What is the importance of soil?
The first revolution that ever happened on this planet, that brought human life into existence, was fought through soil. Microbial organisms, bacteria, algae came together, made this revolution of plants and what you can see growing today, which plants came up with the creation of oxygen, which they give off and breathe in carbon dioxide. If that plant hadn't been there and the plant revolution and microbial organism and fungus had not existed, right in the beginning, which happened within the soil as a participant, there would have never been a human race. Because you cannot be on this planet without oxygen. And the plant and vegetation need your carbon dioxide you breathe out to come and feed them. So it is an interchanging system. This is where I've been saying life is a system. It is not an individual thing, neither is it money, but a system that connects almost everything. Okay? So in this particular aspect of understanding soil, when you genetically modify food and you put it in the soil has your integral DNA. The soil makes the plants, and with all, you know, there are high-frequency plants, high-frequency fruits. I was talking about papaya or popo. You know, we call it popo, and then other people in Asia call it papaya, you know. So this papaya is a high-frequency food. It is 12,000 years old. I'm giving an example. The soil is the one that keeps that integrity. You eat it, and the soil gives you this structure of solidified light, okay? And electromagnetic wave of this body structure that has blood within it. And upon death, since you've borrowed it, it grows even as the mother is eating, this structure is growing of electromagnetic wave and slow down light. But where is it coming from? From the plants that the soil has made. That is how it keeps your integrity. And then it gives you all the DNA it has kept coming up. The seeds are put there by the birds. And then you get these seeds back into fruits and all that, and they go into the body. It is keeping the DNA for you intact so that you can connect with the environment around you through food. Now, genetically, when you come to modify the food, do you know what happens? The soil now doesn't recognize the gene of the food that you have genetically modified. Do you know what it does? It begins to reject it, and it doesn't grow. And when it doesn't grow, since you have genetically modified, you have to bring chemicals, fertilizers that identify with your genetically modified fruit and plant, to pour it on the soil and deactivate the soil and let this one grow on the fertilizer. So when the fertilizer is out and the soil is also redeeming itself, then it means that will not grow. So you have to keep putting fertilizer, you know, for you to grow the genetically modified food. And in that process, you're deactivating the soil. But the soil can always redeem itself, because there is a certain professor, a doctor by the name Zach Bush. He was a professor in chemotherapy and making chemicals for chemotherapy. He discovered we've done all kinds of chemotherapy, and still we are not helping human beings. They are becoming worse and worse and worse. Then one time he goes and gets some soil that he thought had a lot of the ingredients which had recovered itself of a natural form. He got this soil and put it on a cancer cell. And you know what happened? It went into what we would call, it stopped growing. It was deactivated, the cancer cell. That is how important it is that almost every toxin you can think about can be neutralized in the soil. So what happens here is the soil is trying to heal the chemical as you put GMO. But you put the GMO plant and you're saying, hey, this GMO plant should grow as fast as possible. The soil is in the process of healing and trying to neutralize it and create a proper gene. And then in the process, you come and add manure and deactivate the soil. And this one grows with that manure and goes off, and then you eat it. And then when you eat it, you're also turned off because you're turned on to the environment around you, activated to the DNA of the world of 13.5 billion years, like I said. And this activation is within the system all around you is what is inside. So you begin to break yourself up. And you begin to know we cannot do anything without fertilizing the soil. But the soil has elements that even heal every disease we have. Can you imagine? That is how important the soil is.
Like I've seen during the pandemic, when somebody dies of Ebola or somebody dies of coronavirus, they rush you still back into the soil, but they never tell people never to go back where they have buried somebody.
The soil has healing elements. Actually, it has a DNA frequency that actually is healing. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Remember when I talked about the ectoderm, the endoderm, and the mesoderm? Do you get what I'm trying to say? This also is a memory connected to the soil and the earth. Do you get it? It is a mind of its own that is connected to your mind. You remember I talked about the mesoderm and the tissue and how it is formed. What actually works with the mesoderm to make this tissue is the frequency of the light and DNA of the soil that makes this tissue that goes within your organs. Right from the womb. So the minute you are even putting as many chemicals as you don't even know what you're doing. That is how important soil is. So when we do projects as simple as like what we are doing with black soldier fly farming, and you try to make sure that the carcass of the black soldier fly farm, the carcass of the black soldier fly can actually be used to form a top layer in the soil so the soil recovers. The microbial-organisms work together in the same frequency with the soil and restore the integrity of the soil to the point that we are able to eat the right foods that really support our bodily structure. Otherwise, the soil lends us its structure of support and survival, and we give it back at the point of death. So even when you die, the soil knows exactly what is its vibration and what it is not. It will sort it until it takes it back to exactly who you are.
Like I've seen the Asians, mostly the Arabs in the desert, they have discovered that you can either create sand or create soil. When you add organic matter into sand, it becomes the soil. So for us, what we are doing is removing every organic matter from soil.
And putting artificial chemicals, and in the process we are making sand out of soil. In other words, we are making infertile soil out of fertile soil. We are deactivating the DNA of the soil.
So what would be the best practice? What would be the best idea?
Like I said, we are giving an example because some of these things it's difficult for you to be a proponent for them when you've never done them. We're in the small island of Sese Islands in Uganda. I mean, in a small area, really, although there are 84 islands. And we are trying to make sure now we have black soldier fly. When it goes through egg larva pupa and as it is eating, we are trying to get all the leftovers it has eaten from the waste and put it back on the soil. And we are trying to introduce this as a movement in different parts of Uganda to see, can you do something about the soil? Let us nurture it, let us not abuse it. and then we get up. We would not be needing manure if we did not have these genetically modified foods, because it is a give and take with the natural process. There would be something the plants give back, which is the leaves and the rotation and all that and the rotting, and then you take something back again from them. But now that system is no longer there, we have cut it up. So we really need to realize how far we are going, how far we are damaging ourselves, and that life is a system. There is no soil out there. Soil is you, and at the point of death, we give it back. It has been lent to us. That's how generous the soil is, and that is how loving it is. It will heal every disease that has affected a person. Otherwise, you would be, if someone has died of Ebola, someone has died of COVID, however much they bury them, it would be like, for us, we really bury in soil in most parts of Africa. So you'd find that this person has the disease. Even when you go to plant there, that person grows up with the same disease, but the disease will no longer be a part of you the minute you bury. That is how healing and loving the soil is.
When you look at all these soils, this Sunday, unless you put the soil back for the palm to feed. But when it rains, when the water collects from the leaves, comes all the way and erodes everything, because the quality of the soil is not good. It's sandy soil.
Yes.
So I want you to come and see what happens after. This has been done so that the roots here at the bottom
Yes.
can feed into the soils that we have put here. So when you put organic fertilizer from BSF, or when you put organic BSF frass, what we call as leftovers from what the larvae eat through, they bring back all these roots. So I want you to see, you're going to come and see the effect of water, of rain. It is washed away because of the quality or the material of the soil. It is almost sand when you see it. So this is struggling to send roots back to the soil. So unless you put organic manure, because when you put artificial fertilizers, they only have nutrients, but they never help the soils to regenerate. The structure of the soil is not supported. That's why we need to put organic manure, so that these roots can fetch just very near, like you saw the other one we had buried. So when you compare the other plant and this one, this, when you bring the soil back onto the plant, so when I try to open it, this is new, but you will see the effects of the roots trying to come up again. So the roots are trying to eat facing up now, as you can see them. So when it rains, all the water that comes on the stem will wash this soil away eventually. So it is a job to do every time to bring it back here. When you put now organic manure into this soil, then you can see the roots coming up. The distance where it is applied, almost 2 meters away, but you see where the roots are, because when you bring this one here, it is dangerous to the plant. So here you're supposed to use organic or natural fertilizers, which we are trying to get from black soldier fly larvae. We apply it here and then we cover, so that these roots just go straight.
So what we do with the projects that we do on the islands, say islands of Uganda, by introducing black soldier fly farming, we are trying to make sure that we provide a practical end to what we preach, into making the human life and human survival and sustenance something that is really worthwhile, and also making the experience that we have in this life something that is memorable and comfortable and enjoyable to live in. Most of the islands have got loamy sandy soils. So what we do with them is that each time they finish farming with the black soldier fly and the larvae, and they harvest it and get it to the market for sale, they are able to get out every waste material that the black soldier fly ate through, and then we use it to form a top layer on the loamy sandy soils of the island as a way of trying to making fertile soil more fertile. Like even half the desert now in the 21st century is being turned into very fertile soil. But when we do not do anything about our soil, then we are simply closing our hands and we are waiting for some miracle to happen, but we are not doing our part. So our part is to make every household do that, and while they are farming, they are able to use this as a topsoil to create more fertile soils of the loamy sandy soils that really can help with the right food productivity, restoring the DNA of the soil, and making sure that we let Mother Nature nurture us in ways that actually can really help us and help us get out of this quagmire of the food matrix that does not serve us as human beings and as a human race. So also we try to show within this community project on the island, and we demonstrate that you don't really have to cut a tree to build a house. So we try to make demonstrations of eco-friendly tree houses and give people an experience to come and see what it means to be connected to nature, to sleep under a tree, to be connected to the community, to touch the soil, to be part of black soldier fly farming. And this is what we are calling an economic and rural human life transformation movement. So we hope that we can provide an action point to what we preach, if we really at all preach, or to what we believe in. And we hope to create an example that other people can also emulate in trying to make the world a better place. Thank you very much.
Audio preview. Audio preview. Audio preview.